Welcome to the Newcastle City Council regular meeting for July 15th. The time is 7 o'clock. My name is Mayor Clark presiding. This meeting is being recorded and it is also being presented live on our YouTube channel. Please rise and join us in the flag salute. Before I call roll, reminder that if you want to have a public comment, you need to sign up on the sheet over on the table on the side of the office there. So, City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Burford.
Here.
Councilmember Sherlock.
Here.
Councilmember Griffin.
Here.
Councilmember Quigg.
Here.
Councilmember Charbonneau.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Lacotia.
Here.
And Mayor Clark.
Here. Thank you, City Clerk. Next up on our is agenda approval. Is there any desired alterations or changes to tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none, show the agenda approved as written. Next up tonight is public comment. City Clerk, do we have any signers for public comment?
Mayor, we did have someone email, but I don't know that they're actually joined.
Okay, anybody on the sign-up sheets? No. Okay. All right. All right, so public comment, there's nobody signed up, nobody online. The public comment is closed. There is a second public comment later in the meeting, and there is a sign-up sheet on the table. Okay, we have no ceremonial presentations tonight. Next up is council comment. Just a reminder to my fellow council members that a few months ago I reminded all that the city clerk is going to ring a 3-minute buzzer for us, just to remind you to where you're at in your comments so that you can keep track of what you're saying. It doesn't mean you have to stop, it's just a reminder. Okay, first up, Councilmember Charbonneau. Go ahead.
Thank you. It was really nice to see folks at the, I guess, 3rd of July fireworks in the park. Great to see local businesses there. I had former students and current students I'd seen, a lot of our community members, Chief Kajihiro as well. Looking forward to the upcoming arts fair over at the Newcastle Commons. That'll be this Saturday. Definitely plan to be there. I wanted to give, I was really grateful to, there's a lot of, it being the summer, there's a lot of different things happening with the young folks. So I was really grateful last week to speak to the Washington Bus Fellows, which is an organization that has young people engaged in politics. So it's fellows ranging from 18 to 25, interested in getting involved in politics. So I was really grateful to be a guest speaker for them. And then I also spoke to the Washington Youth Alliance. They had a gathering. It's an organization focusing on youth mental health and gun violence prevention.
Hold on a second. What's your point?
The point was that he's getting a little,
Can you use your microphone?
he's talking about something that is political and we're not supposed to do that. We didn't have the attorney read the script to us tonight, so he shouldn't be going there.
I'll thank you for the point of order, but I'm going to let the Councilmember Charbonneau continue. But however, thank you for the reminder. Our city attorney stand-in, Randy, would you please read us the political disclosure? I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I forgot to have that done. And Councilmember Charbonneau will come back to you.
It's usually for public comment, not necessarily for council comments, that we read that. We don't usually do it for the council to comment. I mean, the same principle applies, but it's for public comment.
Okay. We've always done it at the beginning. My misunderstanding.
We've always done it at the beginning of public comment.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just a reminder to the council members, do not overtly campaign from the dais, please. Councilmember Charbonneau, continue.
Thank you. Speaking to those folks that were high school students, again, I'm sharing because I'm invited here to talk about I'm invited in those settings to talk about my work as a Newcastle City Council member, and I do that with those young people, both those fellows I mentioned and these other students. So that's why I like to share that and encourage young folks watching, which I know many of them do, and also send us emails to be aware of these things and be aware of how your council members are engaging. And I just wanted to give a big shout out to Vina Nguyen, who built on her junior at Hazen High School, who built on her state championship title this year by going to Fargo in North Dakota and becoming the school's first ever All-American, placing 7th in the entire nation for girls 100-pound weight class, which has never been done for a school before, going up in a bracket of 64 folks that are all of that caliber, state champion level, to go compete. So shout out to her.
Councilmember Quigg?
I agree with Councilmember Charbonneau. The 4th of July, 3rd of July thing was amazing. Shout out to our whole Public Works team, knocked out of the park. The Lake Bourne Park was just beautiful. It was absolutely amazing. If there's anything that went wrong, I don't know about it. Invariably, after every Newcastle Days or concert, they always say, "Oh, we didn't have this in the food truck. The ice didn't show up." Nobody notices. Amy George, wherever you are, thank you to you. Again, I don't know if there's been that many people at the park ever. We're packing them in, and I just think that word's gotten out that Newcastle's awesome and beautiful, and our parks are amazing, and Director Fitzgibbons and Director Bonds and all the other directors and City Manager Pingle, I just couldn't have been more proud of our city. The night was perfect. The fireworks all went off without a hitch. The music was great. And I just wanted to say, well done, Newcastle. So that was really special. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Griffin?
Thank you, Mayor Clark. I'm going to welcome the people who are out there watching our show tonight. I appreciate your being here. It's always good to see people out there while we're doing our business up here. Regarding the 3rd of July and the fireworks, probably the largest crowd I've ever seen at Lake Bourne. It was fantastic. And thank you for coming.
Councilmember Shulock?
Thank you, Mayor. I just echo that really grateful for everyone who volunteered and all the staff that put in extra time for the 4th of July, 3rd of July fireworks on the lake, I think is what we call it. And I'm really looking forward to the rest of our summer events, concerts in the park, and Newcastle Days.
Councilmember Burford?
Good evening, all. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And I just want to share my attendance. I have participated in Washington Association for Cities, Association of Cities, AWC, from June 24th to June 27th on behalf of our city. And especially this year, so we presented our city's flag and at the parade. So for its inaugural appearance, it's very special. So that's our identity. Identity and the representation truly matters. And also, secondly, I'd like to share that also for AWC, I really hope next year if our city can send a bigger team. I know several cities, a lot of cities, several neighboring cities and a lot of other cities in the state. They send big teams, not only council members, also city staff. They were all attending AWC. It's a great professional development opportunity and networking, reach out, learn from the very best in the field, learn from the expertise. I really look forward for the next conference. And also, next one is about, I also want to shout out about our Newcastle fireworks. I want to thank our city staff and, of course, Amy George for their tireless work. And also, I had a special moment. I got to meet with the people who help us throughout the years for our fireworks. I want to shout out for them as well. So, Matt, Trevor, and Steve, this is their. They have been doing this for 8 years with our city. I'm so impressed. I really, really thanked them in person. Also, I want to share, I've been running with our community. So I want to give special kudos and shout out to our Newcastle resident, Mary Vickers. So she's truly a Newcastle gem in our community. So she brought people together. We got to run every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 to 9:30. So doesn't matter you want to run or not, either run or jog. Also, people from all ages, even including babies and fur friends. Such a great way to get out and meet with your neighbors and just like uplifting energy to kick off your day. And also Jenny, who also offered free yoga session for the community as well. So feel free, everyone, and join us if you are available. And also, I also very much look forward to our Newcastle Arts Council's Art Fair. This is our annual event. So I want to add one more. We started during the pandemic. So I remember since its inception, the name is Newcastle Art Walk in order to accommodate social distancing measure. So I look forward, I will be there. I will be there to serve in the community. I really, really encourage everyone from 10 to 5 on July 19th, this coming Saturday. So enjoy your summer, everyone. Stay cool.
Deputy Mayor?
Oh, I just want to say good evening, everyone, and congratulations to everyone here for a successful fireworks show. And I hope our citizens continue to enjoy the remaining summer events. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor's comments. I don't really have anything. I'm sorry I missed the fireworks. Sounds great, but couldn't be helped. So thank you, everybody. No other comments from me. So next up tonight, we have project briefing on the King County Coal Creek sewer upgrade. And there is a presentation. Whoever, I'm not sure which of you gentlemen was going to present for us, but come on up to the podium. And
Good evening. We'll have two people come up for tonight. My name is Cameron Garral. I'm the King County Wastewater Treatment Division Director. Really appreciate the opportunity to address you here tonight. I'm here with a couple of my colleagues. They'll introduce themselves and we'll walk through the presentation that you have here. King County Wastewater serves the city of Newcastle through the Coal Creek Utility District that serves you directly. We're essentially the wholesaler within the system, and your utility district is kind of like the retailer. So you probably pay a sewer bill to the district when you pay that bill, and then we charge the district for taking their wastewater and treating it and discharging it out to Puget Sound. So that's the way the system kind of works. So 100% of the wastewater coming from the city of Newcastle comes in city pipes that eventually flow into our system, goes down to our treatment plant in Renton, in your case, and then is safely discharged out to Puget Sound. The sewer main that we'll be talking about here tonight was built in the 1960s, so it's kind of original equipment with our system in some ways. And as you'll hear tonight, it's a very important project. This particular sewer pipe is located adjacent and sometimes right within the bed of Coal Creek. We wouldn't do this kind of thing anymore, so this is a great opportunity to do right by the creek while we're doing right by the system to ensure that the system is robust and can serve the residents of Newcastle well into the future here. So it's a really important project. You'll hear some of the environmental benefits. I'll also want to acknowledge, and Scott will talk more about this, construction projects create impacts. You know that from your own work here at the city and from others' work on city streets. This project will create some traffic impacts, some disruption. So we're apologizing in advance. We've done everything we can do to create a project that minimizes those impacts. What I've learned in about 30 years of work of working in the public sector is trying to get in and get these projects done is the best way to do it. So we're hopeful to maximize our efficiency on this project and minimize the impact for you. But we'll go through kind of the ins and outs here, and our folks will be happy to answer your questions. And again, thank you for the time here tonight. And I'll introduce Scott Mingus, who is our project manager that will walk you through the project.
Not used to speaking into a microphone, so let me know if I get too loud. Scott Mingus, King County Wastewater Treatment Division. I'm a capital project manager, and as you're hearing, the project manager for the Coal Creek Sewer Upgrade. So thanks for the opportunity tonight. Good evening, Mayor Clark and the council. I appreciate the opportunity to just I will try to remember to be brief since this is a briefing, and err on the side of being brief to just make sure we have plenty of opportunity for your questions. So I believe we all know where we're at, so I'll skip the first one. So an overview of I meant the first, so back to the previous, yeah, my bad. Just an overview of the project area. Again, we are all the way from moving in the natural area, further moving south from the Red Cedar Trailhead area, all the way, as you can see, headed northwest near 405. So the red, jagged alignment you see, and then the blue up toward the right. I don't know if you can see this on your screens too. Okay, great. Up toward the right, so the blue is the part of the trunk that will remain in place that comes up to Newcastle. But we will be replacing all of the red that you see, and that's the old alignment that goes through the parkway. I'm sorry, through the natural area. And then the new installations will be the yellow, the green, and the orange elements that you see there. And the colors are, with regard to the orange is our tunnel, which I'll speak to a little bit. The yellow is what we're calling open cut, or the excavating part. And then we have a small section of a smaller tunnel too, with one smaller section that's actually rehabilitated and not removed. I think that was all I was going to say about that. Again, we can answer questions if there's anything more after that. The next slide, please. Just quickly on benefits and objectives, some of which you've already heard. So this is the primary driver here is the capacity driven. Is capacity driven to meet our 20-year peak flows and just maintain the level of service that's needed for the area. The other drivers, as you heard, is the age of the pipe. So we are nearing the end of useful life, and as well, we have a system that is, in a natural area in a stream that makes it vulnerable. So we're going to try to, as you saw in the previous slide, move it as far away from the stream as we can, where we can. So again, with the exception of a small rehabilitated section, this is all new piping. The tunnel I mentioned is one of our biggest factors that we've been able to reduce impact to the community and to traffic. I mean, obviously for tunneling, we're not in the street. There will be some traffic impacts from that I'll talk about, but the tunneling that we've managed to incorporate as part of the design definitely will help with those impacts. As I said, we'll move it away from the creek, and as the picture indicates, you can see a great example of a maintenance hole that is literally on the bank of the stream, and there are many of those throughout the alignment. We will be doing a significant amount of work in the stream itself to there's sections of the pipe we will remove, and that's where we're taking the opportunity to work in the stream and improve the stream for the habitat and especially the salmon, and help with erosion as well. We did get a salmon safe certification that we will also have to have some performance criteria to meet as well as after it's built, and then we'll have some park improvements in the natural area as well. Next slide, please. This was a video that we were going to share in real time, but we can't get it to work, so I apologize for that. But we will send it after the fact and can get it distributed to the council. And it's a short video on the salmon safe certification primarily, and it goes into a little bit of the string work. Again, we fully acknowledge that there will be impacts from to the traffic. We are doing everything we can to minimize that. We do have two points where I'll talk about. We are in Coal Creek Parkway, where we're going to be down to one lane each direction during work hours, and those are the points in the project that we just can't avoid being in the roadway. And those are to make some of the new lateral new connections for the piping. I've tried to highlight 4 areas just for what it's worth, not for what it's worth, 4 areas where there will be traffic impacts from. As I mentioned, we have a new connection in Coal Creek Parkway just near the Red Cedar Trailhead. Again, we'll be in the roadway. We have another section, again, for a Bellevue lateral that will be in Coal Creek as well. We have the next 2, we will be off on a curb lane, so the traffic impact will be slightly less and a little bit different as far as the modifications to the lanes. But one is the micro tunnel I mentioned, and then some work to create essentially a new driveway to some SPU property that we're using for staging. So again, I'm trying to identify places that are in the roadway that will impact traffic. We'll also have truck turn lanes to facilitate the flow of traffic that will facilitate in and out of trucks and equipment and materials that will impact traffic as well. As you can see, I've tried to identify the rough periods of time where these activities will start. I will say that we do not have an approved schedule from our contractor yet. We've been doing iterations with that. We think we're close. And our durations and dates will hopefully get more solid as we get that schedule approved here in the next couple of months, hopefully. And the dates will, like I said, the dates will become more clear. That said, we will be communicating out as broadly as we can once we have clear information on when these traffic impacts will occur. But I've tried to outline the rough quarters that those will occur here. Okay, next slide, please. A visual of work in the roadway, just to try to make it as clear as possible. So when we're digging deeply and we're digging in the street, this is kind of what it looks like. Again, the 2 points, and I've tried to identify them with the arrows here, but the arrow further on the right, again, is the work we'll be doing in Coal Creek Parkway when we're making our new connection near the Red Cedar Trailhead. And then over to the left, I guess that's west of Forest Drive, is where we will be working on the other Bellevue lateral. We'll be in Coal Creek Parkway. And again, just to reiterate that our traffic control plans have really done everything we can to, we're ensuring safety, number one, safety for the workers, safety for traffic and pedestrians and bikes. But then they need a certain work area as well to do their work and to do it efficiently. So the traffic control plans are really designed around that. The next slide, please. Just to show you our permitted work hours from the city of Bellevue. So when we're outside of the right-of-way, you've got the hours that are shown there. And the holidays are listed in our permit. They're not always the holidays that, they're the holidays that Bellevue honors, that is. So they're maybe a little bit different from different jurisdictions. When we're in the right-of-way, it's the Monday through Friday, 7 to 4. And no work on weekends or holidays with that as well. We also have approval for 24/7 operations when we're doing the tunneling. Once the tunneling starts, now this is in Coal Creek, this is in Cedar, Red Cedar parking and trail area. It's not in the roadway, although we will have a truck turn lane. But that's 24/7 operations once that tunnel starts, because once it starts, they really can't stop. And just a note on our, again, much of what we've done with our schedule and the construction is planned around the approved work hours, essentially. So those are very important to make the progress that we need to. Okay, next slide. Improvements on natural area. I apologize if I'm maybe going a little bit over. Some of these I already mentioned, but we're going to have better access for folks with disabilities and some improved signage at the trailhead. Again, with the stream work, try to stabilize some of the trails from further erosion. We will be doing a lot with native species, especially with the trees that we'll be replanting, as far as getting better coverage, year-round coverage for cooler water in the summers. We will be maintaining to make sure that the plantings are healthy for the next 10 years. And I mentioned the Salmon Safe certification, which is another incentive for us to do the work properly and to make sure that we meet our permitting requirements. Next slide, please. A bit on just some highlights for community engagement over the years. As you can see, back to 2017, so a variety of mailings, open houses and online open houses, trying to tap into commuters who are passing through the area to target our messaging as well. We've got a listserv, email listserv. We've got our project website that will also be maintained during construction. We've had numerous in-person meetings with community groups. We do one-on-one, social media. There's a Facebook ad out there as well. There was a briefing to some Newcastle, I think, Public Works staff a few years ago. Posters at trailheads, and we will have community relations staff who will be at some Newcastle events, one of which was mentioned, the Newcastle Days, I believe it is, will be there. Next slide. And again, during construction as well, our community relations staff, we also have consultants who support as well, are around for any and all inquiries and needs that come up from the public. Again, we update our website, we do the listserv, we get out all the notifications we can when we know impacts are coming or when there's updates coming. There will be a 24/7 hotline during the 24/7 work that I mentioned in the park with the tunneling, and then we always have a phone number that folks can call all throughout the construction. They basically never say no to anyone who wants to talk with them. I'll just say that. And then of course we'll have communications with the city of Bellevue, which we've already been doing, as well as Newcastle as is needed. So, and they also do translated materials when it's needed. So that. Sorry, I feel like I went through that really quickly. That's it on the slides. And I'm assuming there's questions, which I will do my best to answer. And if I can't give you a clear answer, I will definitely get back with an answer.
Thank you, Scott. Go ahead, Councilmember Quick.
Okay, Scott, thank you very much. You said during the tunneling it's going to be 24/7, right?
Correct.
Because the city of Bellevue allows that per their permitting process, right?
Correct.
The other times you have to operate from like business hours, like 7 to 4 or something, right?
Yeah. Well, when it's not in the right of way,
Yeah.
it's the 7 to 6.
Bear with me. Yeah, go back to
Sure,
the slide,
that's fine.
please.
No problem.
Actually, you know what, let's go to the map, if we can find the map. Hundreds, and you don't drive that on your commute, do you? You probably live somewhere other than nearby.
I do not.
Hundreds and hundreds of people that live around here use that spot, that stretch of road, all the time, all the time. So during the tunneling, it's 24/7, work, right? You guys have lights or something so you guys can dig at night and stuff, right?
There'll be lighting. Yes.
Yeah. So here's my question, and I'm doing this as nicely and patiently as I can. Let me preface it with the following. During COVID, when we're all working from home in masks on Zoom, there was a hilarious Facebook post. You know Chris Farley, the comedian? It was Chris Farley looking into the camera going, "For the love of God, do all the road construction now," and nobody was on the roads, right? Because it was like the perfect time. We weren't driving, we were staying at home, taking care of our kids on Zoom. Here's my question, Scott. What do I got to do to call Bellevue and say, please, let them do all the construction 24/7? Because I don't understand why we can do the tunneling with lights 24/7, get it done as quickly as possible. But instead of doing the other work 24/7, or when nobody's on the road at 3 in the morning, we can't do that. Why are we doing the construction when everybody's driving their kids to school, going to get groceries, I'm doing this as patiently, as understanding as I can. Why, for the love of God, can't we do everything 24/7, or do it all at night? Do it when I'm in bed, my kids are asleep. I don't have to go to the grocery store, I don't have to go to work. I don't get it. Can you help me? I'm sure there's a good reason why the city of Bellevue won't let you work 24/7 all the time, or even do it at night, so the rest of us that have day jobs can, do what we do. You get my sarcasm, right? I just don't get it. You might know, one of those two guys sitting down might know the answer. I'm speaking on behalf of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Newcastle residents who are going to drive through there in a ungodly amount of traffic because the city of Bellevue is forcing you to work when they're commuting or going to pick their kids up or whatever it might be. That's my question to you. Everything else looked fantastic. I love it. It's 1960. It needs to be replaced. We protect the streams. I love it. I love it. Love it. When you got to the traffic impact, by the way, one more thing that I promise I'll shut up, Scott.
Sure.
The number one word that our residents chose as to what pisses them off is traffic. It wasn't even close. So help me out. How can I got to advocate as hard as I can for our residents to do the work when they're not trying to drive to work or drive to school or go grocery shopping. Is there a way to get that done, or is it just we're stuck and it's the city of Bellevue and we got to blame them?
Well, I won't say blame them, but I believe we are stuck. Well, I'll do my best to, unpack a lot of that. I mean, I can tell you nighttime work, the biggest factor is safety. If you can imagine, even if you bring in lights, you still are in a situation where, everything has to be well lit, right? If you're digging in the roadway, you can imagine they're moving steel plates. They are moving, it's very risky. So the risk factor goes up substantially. It's also much more costly. Not saying that's not a reason to do it or not to do it, but it is much more costly to do things overnight. I can't speak to why, the city of Bellevue would not, permit. I don't know that we asked, frankly, either.
That's all I'm asking. Can you just ask them, say, hey, can we do a little more in 24/7? I'm going to drop it. Other people have questions for you. I'm just saying my feedback from the one guy you've talked to in this room so far is try to do more 24/7. Because the less time our residents have to sit in traffic,
Understood.
the better. Thank you very much, Scott. Well
Sure.
done.
Go ahead. Councilmember Charbonneau, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Gurl and Mr. Mingus. So I guess on slide 8, talking about the wastewater treatment division improvements to natural areas, I was just hoping for, for a little more specificity of exactly what. So I know you said improved signage, but what does improved signage indicate? Improved accessibility for people with disabilities? Are you talking folks that might need walking assistance, things of that nature? Protections for infrastructure and trails during floods, but I'd just like to hear more details of what it looks like and environmental improvements as well.
So could you find the slide that shows the maintenance hole? We might be able to see some of the erosion. So the protection for I believe it was in 2020, there was some people call it a flood. I guess there was a storm that created a lot of erosion in the trail. Yeah, you can't really see it here, but there's the trail that what goes along the stream, for example, was down to about 3 feet. It's sloped, and there was a bunch of erosion that just went where this channel was cut. So with the stream improvements, they will be working on, I guess it's called channelization in the stream. This is mainly for the salmon, but they'll have a high flow and a low flow channel, and that's one measure that will help with erosion. They're also going to work with woody debris, some of which will come from felled trees in the area, where they'll put them in the stream to help protect from erosion as well. So, because we will be, I think from the trailhead, we go back a couple of 100 yards up the stream, and again, right now it's just a foot trail. It will be I believe it's 12 or 15 feet wide, a maintenance road all the way back almost to this point. That will be, now it won't be paved, it's gravel, but it is flat and wide, and it will allow some increased accessibility from that standpoint for folks with disabilities. So there's that. So they can get back much further than they would have previously. I feel like I didn't get to all of your parts of your question.
Yeah, I think just mainly to talking to that slide, just what did environmental improvements look like as well? I guess that's kind of captured when talking about erosion. And then it said required maintenance of restored areas for a minimum of 10 years. Is that a sort of a guiding principle, or would that fall upon the city after those 10 years, or is it, is it not that specific?
Well, the 10 years is on us. I don't know after that. I guess my assumption is the city of Bellevue Park, so I would assume it would go back to the city of Bellevue. But yeah, so we'll be working with Habitat all along the stream. There's wetlands that will be disrupted, so there's a lot of restoration, and we are on the hook to make sure that those come back healthy in the long term.
Thank you very much. Yeah, very
Of
informative.
course.
Councilmember Sherlock?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I just want to start by saying I really appreciate you guys coming here to Newcastle to talk to us. I know this isn't in Newcastle technically, so thank you for giving us all this information. Just a quick question. You mentioned the listserv. I don't see a website. I'm assuming it's pretty easy to find if I just Google King County. How do I get on the listserv? Is that an opt-in only? How does that work?
Yeah, I think you would need to go in and ask to be added. So I'm more than happy to send that after we're
Okay.
After we're out of here. But you should be able to Google, Coal Creek sewer upgrade, King County, and that website should come up.
And what kind of information, like how often or do you know how often things are sent out, or maybe you're not the right person to ask that?
Well, I'm not the technical expert, but I believe they send out communications whenever there's enough information to share that's of value. Or if there's something big that's happening, they'll push it out as well. So especially now that we're in construction, I would expect those to be more frequent. But like I say, when there's significant enough updates, they'll push out the communications to let people know.
Okay, so we can share that with like our residents or the council and all that stuff. It's all public
Absolutely.
information. Yeah.
The more the better. Yeah, I mean, we've done what we can, but, we still, people have to be paying attention. We have to get to them,
Exactly.
so.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Burford?
Yeah, thank you for your team for coming, and thank you for your presentation. And I'm glad to hear you have Salmon Safe certification. I'm so glad to hear, and also kudos for providing translations in multiple languages. I saw from your slides and materials. This to meet our community's diverse needs. Do you know how many languages in general?
Ooh, I don't. I apologize, I don't. I think it's a good handful that have been translated, but I don't know them off the top of my head. I'm happy to get back on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I just have one, Scott. Could you go to the map, Lindsay, please? The middle of the diagram there, which is one of the arrows for the cut there, the yellow and the green, that's a pretty deserted section of Coal Creek. What is there that would need a sewer connection? I mean, that's just all woods. Yeah.
And you're referring to the top right?
Right kind of in the center.
Oh, that,
Yeah.
so that is what the new Bellevue lateral that comes, so if the orange tunnel, so that's our replacement main line. And then we have this, what we call a lateral, so it's just a side sewer, essentially, that captures flows from the hillside, from the residences up on the hillside. So that's what that's
Okay.
for. So, yeah.
Any other questions? Well, thank you all. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Cameron. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time tonight. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Okay, next up is a quarter 1 and 2 community development report. Director Fitzgibbons, I assume that's you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Community Development has provided a brief written report. We'd like to do this on a quarterly basis. And we'll provide a presentation when it's warranted. However, tonight it's just a written report, pretty straightforward. I'd love to hear any feedback or additional information that you'd like to hear, as this is a new report from our department. But it's just to kind of help you see what the flow of work is in the city construction work. So, anyway, were there any questions or comments?
Councilmember Sherlock.
Yeah, not a question, just, I actually really enjoyed this. I think it's succinct, but great information. I want to specifically commend you for not just putting in an acronym and not explaining it. So thank you for that. I know that takes time to really think through, so thank you for doing that. Every time I got a little tripped up, I found it right away. That explained it, so thank you.
Councilmember Quick.
Hello, Director Fitzgibbons. The thing that caught my eye was on page 18. Projects have been canceled, ... depending on economic factors. You may not know specifically about this, but you know when the map that those guys just showed a minute ago, that little area where there's those giant white marshmallow buildings? You with me?
On Factoria Boulevard?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'm guessing somebody went broke, right? And so that's why those have been sitting there forever, just wrapped in ungodly white plastic, just standing there not being worked on. My question to you is this, I'll cut to the chase. I want to make sure that doesn't happen in Newcastle, you know, where like a project starts in the middle of our beautiful town and all of a sudden somebody goes bankrupt and we have a giant white marshmallow for, years in the middle of our city. How do we protect against that? I mean, do you even know about that particular project? Did Bellevue screw up, or is it just COVID that caused that? I really don't know the details. I just drive by it, like I said to that guy, every day on my way to work. And it's a big eyesore. So is there something Newcastle can do to make sure that if some company runs into financial hardship or there's quote unquote economic conditions, that we don't have giant white marshmallows in the middle of our city?
To some degree. So I'm not 100% sure what happened with that. If I had to guess based on other projects that we had in the pipeline that are no longer, it definitely could have been a financing when all the interest rates went up. We do have requirement, because a permit will expire after so long. So if a permit expires, we can require the property owner to return it to its original state. So we could require them to demolish if it got to a certain point, but that also is costly and you have to weigh the benefit of that.
Let me add to that. I figured it always comes down to money. It's like the fellow answered my first question, like, how can we avoid traffic? He's like, well, it's too expensive. So it ultimately, I'm just saying, I'd be curious to see, and I don't know if this is something that somebody else would do, what would it cost just to make sure that doesn't happen to us? If it's a half of a 0.5% to buy an insurance policy in the event that another COVID hits, that, we don't have a marshmallow. I see playing marshmallow, tongue in cheek. But you know what I'm talking about? It looks bad, right? And I just don't think it should happen to us if we can prevent it by just thinking ahead and just asking the developer, like, hey, buy whatever, however many dollars policy in the event that something happens, to make sure it just looks nice. It's just the aesthetic question is for me. That's all I know about it.
So I don't know if we have the answer right offhand, and I guess I'm going to ask Aaron a question. So I don't know that would be costly for us. It's costly for the builder.
Yeah.
Because they're the one that, right. And so that's what we're trying to be cognizant of, is that builder is going to have, they've just thrown a bunch of money into something that then now is not going to go, and now we're going to make them pay to put it back.
It's a great point. I understand we ask them to provide drawings, we ask them to provide all sorts of stuff. If it adds another 0.5% to their $1 million, whatever, multi-million-dollar project to do it, to protect our city from looking like that, maybe it's worth it. I don't know the right or wrong answer. I'm just pointing out that it feels like it was preventable. I mean, nobody could have seen for the COVID thing coming, but that's all. I literally drive. That's why when the guy said traffic's going to suck for whatever, how many months, I was like, oh no, people are going to freak out, right? Similarly with you, if we have a giant marshmallow, in the middle of our downtown because some company couldn't afford to pay its bill, then I feel like it's on me and us that we didn't prevent it somehow. I don't have an answer, just a question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I think,
that's great. Oh, go ahead.
I just think it comes down to code enforcement afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can, if they were gonna leave it in kind of a mothballed state until they got additional financing or something like that, I think we can dictate what that state has to be, rather than being a giant marshmallow. I don't know that we have that in place today, but we can certainly look at it.
Thank you, Councilmember Quick.
Any other questions? Okay, Director Fitzgibbons, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, next item is council committees, Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee met on June 23rd. Director Chambers brought the snapshot for Bay, and our revenues are ahead of schedule. The budgeted expenses are less than what they normally should be, so we're in pretty good shape there. She brought the electronic funds transfer, the policy and procedures was brought to the Finance Committee and were unanimously approved, and they'll be handled tonight by the council. And the city of Newcastle is in very good hands with Director Chambers and her accounting staff. We're so happy to have her.
Economic and Community Development Committee.
Thank you. We met on June 2nd. We will be meeting again on August 6th. Fort Remit City Hall have digital and in person, both available for folks in the community. We got updates on the Seattle Metro Chamber of Commerce, which is presented some grant opportunities for FIFA when it comes to the U.S. and Seattle and surrounding areas. Those will begin in September and hopefully be distributed by the end of the year, so we're exploring that with the Chamber of Commerce. Got an update on developments, which I think we also just did as well from Director Fitzgibbon in the packet, so I would point folks there. And then just talked about different open floor opportunities, what the Chamber's promoting, and fielded open questions and had open floor.
Okay, thank you. Any regional committees? Councilmember Charbonneau.
Thank you. So the Public Issues Committee, which is the regional policy committee, was a bit more lengthy. I'll try to get through it all succinctly. They're reviewing annual city dues for Sound City Association, so those could potentially change. They didn't say or indicate how much, but just a heads up on that. Sound Cities is putting together a regional affordability summit. It'll be in early November, hosted by them, and I think we're all invited and welcome to attend. I'm trying to have a discussion about incoming taxation and things of that nature. The group directed the Sound City Association staff to draft a letter to King County Transportation District, which is currently exploring their potential revenue options. One of those revenue options they're exploring is a 0.1% sales tax increase to put on the ballot. SCA drafted a letter asking them to explore potential other options as opposed to the 0.1% sales tax increase for revenue. And they're going to get, that draft was put in front of us, we're going to look at signing that and sending that to them. And then, I don't know if folks remember the sort of public defenders, I'm going to have to open it to get through all of it, but the public defenders situation that we talked about before that would make it so that it would be much harder for the city to pay for it, and it would hamstring cities a lot in terms of public defenders. Well, the big part of it is there's now going to be a 10-year on-ramping period for reducing those caseload requirements. So that's good, but in the sense of phasing it in. But then there's still conversations about, not that it's going to be a long-term problem, even if it's not a problem within the immediate 10 years. There is going to be, I'm trying to see, they were saying there might be some opportunities to engage and sort of testify on that. And it's going to be really put forward by SCA as a whole going forward. So I'll keep folks posted on opportunities to like weigh in on that as a city and engage there. And sorry, there's not a lot of specific action right now, but SCA and Association of Washington Cities are both trying to work on this and aware of it because other cities would be in the same boat of struggling with this. So that's the current status. And then SCA is now doing a monthly newsletter, and most folks will check that out.
Thank you. Councilmember Burford.
Yeah, last Wednesday, I invited by SCA, some cities association. I went to Seattle, attended the King County Regional Transit Safety Task Force. They held the Transit Safety Solutions Summit. So it's a several-hour summit. The leaders from King County and council executive, also Sun Transit Center, Sun Transit CEO, of course, former executive, and also a lot of city council members, mayors, and we were there because it's like collective effort. So it's not just in one city, one community. So they presented really informative solutions. Really is like action-based, not just like lip business. 8 areas they concentrate. So if you are interested, I can share with you. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, please send an email or something to the council. While you have the microphone, I would ask, since you went to the AWC on behalf of all of us, what things did you bring back for us that we might learn from?
I took a lot of notes, and certainly as during my council comment, I said briefly, and a lot of sessions, they really apply to specific cities, including our city. For example, like how to engage your community, how to include everyone in your community. So I really like the idea of citizen academy, that idea. Also, they have ideas about like during council meeting, how to like participate in the council meeting in like friendly. We have different opinions, we disagree, but we share the common value, and that's the how to work collaboratively with your colleagues, right? And also public safety, and affordable housing, also green city, and they gave a lot of models, samples. So I have a lot to share. So I hope if we can get together, that would be awesome. Thank you.
I would recommend that perhaps you summarize it all in an email, send it all to us so we can have that information, and if we can discuss it at a meeting if there's something that steps out. Thank you. Okay, there are no commission reports tonight. Up next is city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. Just briefly, everyone touched on the fireworks. It was a great show. I'm always very impressed with our staff. I might be a little bit biased, but one of the things that I love that they do, the coordination between the Public Works crew and Amy George and the police staff is great. And so one of the things that always comes of that is they always do an after action meeting and, okay, what went well, what didn't go well. And as like Councilmember Quigg was alluding to, as great as the events seem to go, they're always making tweaks and adjustments to make the next one better. And that's something that I appreciate that they do, and that I think points to the popularity of the events and that they continue to be well attended. This past fireworks show, it's the most people, at least I know I've been here very briefly, but it's the most people in 3 4th of Julys that I've seen that early in the park. And they handled it great. And so I just want to commend them. I also want to recognize that I think every CAC member showed up to work the city tent. We also had a couple of planning commissioners work up to come help with the city tent. So that was great to see as well. Appreciate their help. And then we've utilized Maple Valley and Burien SeaTac Explorers to help out with just presence in the park, to help out with manning the fence before the fireworks. And then especially, we didn't have any incidents this year, but last year there was a missing child for an hour or whatever it was, and they help out greatly with that. And just in the last week, 2 weeks, maybe it was last Monday, Chief Kajihiro and MPO Martin held an initial meeting to establish our own Explorer program in Newcastle, which will help greatly. It's always nice to be able to pull Explorers, but to have our own for our things and our events will be great. And so I want to make sure the council's aware of that. And then just want to plug, starting next Wednesday, July 23rd, Concerts in the Park start, and we're excited for that. And that's all I got.
Councilmember Quigg, you have questions?
I got one question. At the end of this magnificent event that's so busy, so popular, getting out of the park was tough. And I don't know, just like I keep on talking to people that aren't here anymore, for Scott. We're dealing with the city of Bellevue. Who do I have to deal with, or who can we work with just to get people out more quickly? Not to the point that, we have to pay $1 zillion to the city of whatever, King County this or that, but just, so that maybe the streetlights get adjusted a touch so people can kind of, get out and get home more efficiently. Is that even I don't even know if that's even an option, or who you call. Do you call the governor? Who do you call to make the traffic lights, adjust a little?
So two things are fairly constant as far as how can we make tweaks to make it better. One of them is parking and then traffic. Those kind of go hand in hand. And then trash, just dealing with the amount of trash that we need to just, even just pulling them and dumping them and replacing and stuff like that. But on traffic, I don't know what the answer is, but it's one of those things that we continue to look at options and scenarios as far as, okay, how do we push people out of the pipeline? And I don't know that we've looked at timing of the lights and how possible that is, but I'll definitely throw that at our guys.
Okay, I gave the guy the idea, work at night to avoid, literally, traffic is, if you go walk around the city, Scott, just go house to house, say, hey, what do you hate about, they're going to have something, but one out of every so many options is going to say traffic, 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 traffic. And this is one that's right there, right in our face, that we can just for that 27 minutes right after the last firework goes off, change it so people can just get out, right? Because the people were backed up all the way as far as I've ever seen them into Olympus and, all over. And it feels like if we retime the lights just a touch, just like that guy, if we could just retime the work, maybe we could shave a couple days off the traffic congestion for that sewer upgrade. Maybe we could help people get out. And they'd be like, man, I love going to Newcastle because, the event's great, food's delicious, the park looks beautiful, and I got home in a timely manner, Just somebody should look into it, I think.
Councilmember Sherlock?
Thank you. City Manager Pingle, I was wondering if you could, I asked you the other day, the one thing I've heard from residents is they're just curious why July 3rd and not July 4th. And you gave me a really good answer, so I'd love for you to share that publicly.
Sure. So a couple of things. The main one is that this question comes to the Community Activities Commission and they make a recommendation. And then, unless there's some compelling reason to not go with their recommendation, I go with it. But a couple of things go into that. The main ones are cost. So cost and availability. Those are the two main issues. So trying to get officers available to us to work the event on the 4th is very difficult. Generally, we need more officers than just the officers that are on at the time. And so that can be challenging. So availability of officers, everybody gets pulled on the 4th of July, and then for our own crew as well. And just the cost of overtime on a holiday versus the cost of overtime on a Thursday night is very different. And so those are the main issues. But really it comes down to the CAC and their recommendation, and unless there's a reason to not go with it, we go with it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the city manager? Okay, moving on. Oh, Councilmember Burke.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the city crew and everyone. And then later I went to the park again, so it was so clean. It's unbelievable. A lot of people, they were very happy. They said, considering so many big crowd, such a big crowd. Thank you. So proud for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Burford. Moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any objections or desired changes to tonight's consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, show the consent agenda approved as written. There are no public hearings, there's no unfinished business. Moving on to general business. Items 11.1 and 11.2 are related. City manager, you want to just give us a quick 5-second brief on that?
Sure. This was put on general business rather than consent simply because we weren't realizing that the dates are also in the NMC, and so when we realized that, we needed to do an ordinance to change the Newcastle Municipal Code and then a resolution to change the council rules. This is just changing the term dates for the Planning Commission and the Community Activities Commission. So currently terms end July 31st when your term is up, and we want to change that to October 31st. This came as a request from the Community Activities Commission, and then we presented that to the Planning Commission simply because in the council rules it speaks to the two commissions as one as far as their term dates. And so the Planning Commission said, yes, we can go with that, and now we're bringing it to the council.
Thank you. I assume there's no objections, I'm assuming, of course. And is there any desired discussion on either one of these items? So can I get a motion, please, on the first one?
I move to approve ordinance number 2025-672, amending the Newcastle Municipal Code to change the term expiration date for city commission members from July 31st to October 31st.
Second.
Okay, I'll waive discussion on this and we'll go right to the vote. So the motion on the floor is to move to approve ordinance 2025-672, amending the Newcastle Municipal Code to change the term expiration date for city commissioners from July 31st to October 31st. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Okay, so now we're going to move right into the next one, please. Can I get a motion for the next one? Go ahead.
I move to approve resolution 2025-1053, amending the city council rules to change commissioner term expiration date from July 31st to October 31st.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to approve resolution 2025-1053, amending the city council rules to change commissioner term expiration date from July 31st to October 31st. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Okay, thank you, council. Moving on to item 11.3, which is a 2026 initial budget assumptions, factors, facilities fund overview, public safety costs, and sustainability model. I assume Director Chambers, you're going to lead this, or city manager? Who would like-
I'll introduce it just briefly and hand it over. So really the purpose for tonight was, like I said, it's just an initial budget overview. We want to get in front of the council what 2026 is looking like, mainly with big things. Not getting down to any kind of level of detail at this point, but just to get you looking towards 2026. And then with what we're currently in process of with moving our public works staff over to the annex, trying to create additional rental space here at City Hall. We want to make sure just the council is aware of the facilities fund and what goes into it, and take any additional questions, or if you want additional details there, we want to be able to make sure that you're aware of that fund and how it works. And then again, just looking towards the big things as far as the budget goes, and looking at the general fund. One of our biggest challenges is that over the last couple of years, we've been really trying to push down our general government costs. And we define that simply as all of the general fund things other than parks and public safety. And so those things generally we have a little more control over, where with public safety we contract out our two main services. We contract out fire and we contract out police services, and we have much less control over the increase in those costs. And so we just wanted to make sure that that challenge is in front of the council and that you're seeing that for what it is. And so that was, and then as always, we want to make sure we keep the sustainability model in front of you as often as we can, and you can do with it what you like. And so that's on there as well tonight. So I'll turn it over to Lindsay.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Council. Let's see if I can get this a little closer. Okay. So as City Manager Pingle mentioned, we have a couple things in here that we wanted to kind of highlight from what we're looking at right now. So they're noted in the agenda bill as far as the reconciliation we're looking at for the police contract based on where we're at this year with the number of officers, and we don't expect to get any more officers as of right now for the remainder of this year. And then the use of the ARPA that we've allocated for 2026 that was obligated at the end of last year. One thing to note, I want to highlight, the PERS employer rate decreased pretty significantly, and that's actually effective July 1st of this year through at least June 30th of 2027. So that rate decrease is quite a significant savings to the city's costs for what we have to put into the program. So we'll see some savings from that this year. And then we've also incorporated that into the preliminary estimates for next year. A few other small things last year, if you remember, we went through the IRF forecast and did a lot of work to define that better so that we could lower the contributions that were going into that fund and make them more stable over the long term. We've done the same thing with the copiers for this year, which is on a much smaller scale, but still we'll see some savings to the general fund for that. And then, as it mentions in the agenda bill, the CPI is not going to be out, or I don't remember. I don't know if it came out today, if we had it to share, but it will be out soon. And so we'll have that available once we get into preliminary budget for anything that has an inflationary cost based on that. So next I'll walk into the slideshow we have presented ready for you. So first we're going to do just an overview of the facilities fund. So as you know, the facilities fund is used for basically two different pots. We have the Newcastle Professional Building, which is this entire building, of which the second floor is Newcastle, and then we have tenants on the first and third floor. And then the other spaces that the city owns are the annex and the Lakeborn Garage. So the main funding sources for the facilities fund are the tenant rent for the space in this building that's rented out to outside companies, facility fees, and grants, investment interest, and transfers. That's not going down. There we go. Okay. So the tenant rent is divided into two items. There's the base rent that everybody pays based on their contract cost, and then there is common area maintenance, and we refer to that as CAM, and that is covering expenses that are beneficial to the entire building. So things like utilities for the building, any maintenance, any elevator repairs, things like that that are done for the building as a whole, those get thrown into the CAM maintenance pot. And then any capital expenses that are specific to here, such as restriping the parking lot, or if we needed to do a new overlay on the parking lot, something like that, that would be considered a capital expense for this building. And then finally, the debt service is the principal and interest that we have for the bonds are also covered by that. The facility fees are internal city costs, so they get paid from different departments that use the buildings, and then that money goes into the facilities fund, and that covers the other operations and maintenance for anything specific to the second floor that's Newcastle employee space, the annex building, and the Lakeborn Garage. Lastly, Occasionally, we have grant revenue, we have investment interest for the fund balance in the facilities fund, and we use transfers as needed, typically for capital improvements, such as the generator project that's in progress right now. So on the expenditure side, the Newcastle Professional Building, we have 2 GL codes that we use to record those items. The first one is what we call City Hall CAM, and so that is our portion of the building CAM expenses. So the budget is set for the year, and then that amount is divided up among all the tenants based on their square footage. So of course, with the city having almost half of the building, a large amount of that comes from us. And that's the CAM expenses. So what they do is they set that annually, and we normally get that information in August, so we can include it in the preliminary budget. And then it's paid, similar to our police contract, it's paid at a set amount by everybody per year. And then once the year is complete, they do a reconciliation of actuals versus what was established in the budget. And then if there's anything more that's owed, that gets billed out in March. And if there's anything, if it's below budget, that amount gets credited back to all the tenants at the same time. And then the second one is what we call High Point CAM expenses. So this one is actually where we record, every month we get a statement from High Point for the bank account with all the activity. So all the revenue that's come in, rent payments, and then all the expenses that have been paid out. And we record all of that within our accounting software as individual expenses. So we have the history of what's been paid, who the vendor is being paid for it in our accounting software, which is something we weren't doing before. We were recording it in our software, but we were recording it as a lump sum. And when we switched to the new software, we started doing everything individually. So when you look into our accounting system, everything in the bank reconciliation matches to the bank statements. So we have all that history there. So then in the other bucket for our regular facilities expenditures, all of those GL codes start with 51830. And the 51820 and 51830 are based on just the state auditor's office, the BARS numbers. So they have 51820 is for basically contracted, and then the 51830 is for our own. So this includes the portion of salary and benefits for any employees that are coded to the facilities fund in part. Any supplies such as office supplies, building, kitchen supplies, that would be for this second floor of City Hall or for the other 2 buildings. And then services like phone and internet for city employees to use, utilities, insurance, and any third-party maintenance or repairs that, again, are done to those specific spaces and not to City Hall building as a whole. And so what I wanted to do, just to kind of visualize it a little bit more, how these 2 pieces break down within the fund, because we record everything within the fund, and so sometimes it can be hard to kind of break those apart. So that's why I included these 2 charts. So on the left side, you have the Newcastle Professional Building. So this is the budgeted numbers for 2025. We have the base rent, the CAM rent, and then the CAM expenses and debt service that's budgeted. And then on the right side, we have the actual the city-owned spaces. So that includes facilities funds, facility fees, interest, any miscellaneous. So for instance, this year we had an insurance claim that we got reimbursement for. So that's included in that miscellaneous amount when you see the actuals. Transfers in, which is from REIT, and then the operating and capital expenses that are expected. Okay, so that's kind of a breakdown of what the fund does, how the different pieces are included in that fund, and some things to think about as we move forward that we may need to discuss in future meetings is the debt service we have until 2035. So as you can see on the previous slide, the rent is not quite the same as what the expenses are going when you include the building expenses and the debt service. So currently, facility fees are supplementing that rent to make sure that all that cost is covered. So one of the things we're doing is looking for ways to increase that tenant revenue so that we don't have to use as much of the facility fees to cover that. So part of the decision to move the public works crew to the annex was the opportunity to open up some additional tenant space to consolidate the city staff that will be remaining into the main area, and then potentially have some additional tenant space either on this floor or upstairs if we shift things around. That would increase our tenant revenue. And then as the contracts are coming up for renewal, we work with High Point in those negotiations to look at what the current market rate is, what kind of increases we could feasibly include to keep that tenant, but also make sure that we're getting more out of that contract. So with that, if you have any questions on that, we can take a pause.
Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Lindsay, for presenting the facilities expenditure. I don't think so we've done that kind of detail ever in the past. So I'm just curious to know, was the camera and all these expenses already part of facility, or it became a part of facility after your accounting software?
The CAM
Yeah, the
items?
CAM and like phone, internet, was it always part of the facilities or was it part of the general fund?
They were always included in the facilities fund. The main difference with switching to the new accounting software is the way that we're recording the CAM expenses into our software. So originally, the detail was with High Point and in the bank statements, and in our accounting software, it just had the gross amount for the month. So it was, $45,000 of CAM expenses, whereas now we've itemized those out. So then we have the detail readily available.
And all these like building, kitchen, maintenance, everything was always part of facilities?
Yes.
Yeah. There's nothing new that was not part of facilities in this slide? Was there anything that was, okay?
No, and like you mentioned, we haven't gone through this before. I had a hard time kind of separating out these two things to understand the fund and what it was actually doing when I got here. It took me quite a while. And so I thought, well, if I'm having a difficult time understanding it, it might be beneficial to discuss it this summer ahead of budget, just so everybody gets an idea of this is what we're discussing when we talk about this fund. Because I don't think it gets enough attention.
Yeah, yeah. So CAM expenses, meaning all the cameras, and so it's like 259,000?
So
Do we
CAM,
own the cameras? Or
not camera specifically. CAM stands for Common Area Maintenance.
Okay,
So
okay.
that just is a kind of a general landlord-tenant term for anything that touches the building as a whole.
And what about the cameras and all, like, do we own these or, because I remember seeing like 6,000 per month or something somewhere when I used to audit the bills.
The building cameras are part of the CAM expenses,
Okay.
the ongoing costs. And if we had to replace the system, that would also be considered a CAM expense.
Do we know how much those are?
We do have some specifically on our floor that the city covers if we needed to add anything.
No, do we know how much are those expenses?
Off the top of my head, I don't, but I could follow up on that.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. So this includes all building expenses, including the cameras. What else entail in this?
Yes, so things like elevator maintenance, if we have any HVAC, either HVAC maintenance or HVAC repairs that need to be done. There's a phone in the elevator, so that cost is included in the CAM maintenance. But individual tenants have their own phone systems that they pay for themselves.
So I see here tenant-based rent, tenant CAM rent is 215. And the 259 is just ours, or that includes the 215?
Here.
Well, that's the revenue, and then expenses is 259. So that is how much we get from the tenant on the CAM expenses for the building, right?
Yeah, the 215 is what was budgeted initially, and then this year we included a potential capital expense that has not come to fruition, and we don't expect to come to it. But the Cameron is set at the beginning of the year, and then everybody pays into, all the tenants pay into it throughout the year. And then if there's anything more that's owed after the year's over, if, you know, we needed more repairs than what we expected, or we had an emergency repair that was needed, then that would be handled in the reconciliation the following spring.
So 259 is the expense, and we get 215 from the renters for the CAM expense.
Yes.
So the remaining is what we foot the bill.
No, it would be if the expense did actually happen, then it would be recovered the following spring when they did a reconciliation. If the actuals are more than budget, then the tenants still pay their share of it.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay.
So it's similar to, like, if you think about our police contract, we pay a set amount for the year. And then after the year's over, King County goes through and looks at, okay, what were the actual costs incurred? How many officers did we have? How much overtime there was? And depending on where everything falls, we either get a credit or in previous years, we've had an additional amount to pay.
Councilmember Quick?
Literally, when I saw the debt service, 346 grand, I wrote it down, and the president looked at me like this. So we were thinking the same thing, which is, holy cow. So $346,000 per year in debt service to 2035.
Yes.
So is that, forgive me, this is my own, I've been here a few months, so maybe I should know this by now. This isn't like debt service, explain debt service to me. This isn't like I go to the bank and get a mortgage for my house. Explain debt service to me, please, so I understand it better.
So, yeah, the state term is debt service, but that means it's debt. So
But is it
the
like,
city.
do we go to Key Bank and get a loan for,
So in this case, the city sold bonds. They sold
There you go. Yeah,
bonds
yeah.
back in the, 2015, 2016,
Yeah.
when, in order to purchase the building. That's how we got the funds.
That's what I figured. So this isn't the situation,
settle
you
that.
answered the question with what I thought you would say.
So, yeah, so each year what we do is we have 2 payments that are made. The first payment is made, I think it's due by June 1st, and that's interest. And so that interest is going to the bond holders that purchase those bonds. So they have a schedule of when they're going to get interest earnings for that. And then at the end of the year, due December 1st, we have the larger payment, and that is the principal amount for any bonds that are maturing that year, along with interest.
I'm going to follow up one stupid question with another stupid question. You can refinance, right? You can go from like a 30-year loan to a 15-year loan or whatever, and you can pay sooner or credit cards. If you owe credit card debt and you're paying whatever 12% interest, you pay it off sooner, you save some money, right? Is there any way to do anything like this with this, or this is not that situation? This is a bond for the city to buy a building, and there's no way we get out of this $346,000 a year debt service. We're going to pay that slowly, or there's no way to lower the amount of debt service. Is that my understanding?
Not the principal amount. There could be, I haven't looked at all the initial interest rates, but knowing the environment at that time, the interest rates are probably pretty good.
Okay, they were.
But there is an opportunity to refinance bonds should the need arise.
Well, because we interest rates got pretty dang low, right? There was a time when you get like a 2% interest rate. So the Quick family did a refi and saved a bunch of money. I'm just wondering, because you've done so much, right? Like you figured out a way for us to invest our money more smartly, Lindsay. I'm sorry, Director Chambers, to make more money off of the money we're not using every year. I'm wondering if there's a way, not just on the revenue side, but also on the payment side, to shape. The $346,000. There's got to be a way to make that, $320 per year. Is there a way to, work the numbers or work your Lindsay magic?
I think to that degree, that would mean the interest rate would be cut in half from what it was initially. And I'd have to go back and look at the initial documents to see where we landed on most of those rates. But I know in 2016, it was pretty good. And I'll also say bond rates are an option that cities use often because they are a little more stable. They don't go up and down like stock market prices do.
Yeah, and so
they're generally on the lower end anyways. And people that are purchasing them are looking for something
absolutely.
that's
I don't want to belabor this point. I literally have talked more than I probably should. I'm just saying, to the extent we can take a look under the hood like you did on the other side, on the revenue side, on the saving side, to the extent you look under the hood and say, hey, you know, I spent 17 minutes with Maria and we figured out we're getting the best rate we can. There's no way to lower the debt service below 346. Boom, it was worth the time we spent. If you guys figure out how to shave just 5% off that.
Yeah, I think it's certainly something we can counsel with our bond counsel and see, you know, where things are at right now, what the environment looks like, and if it would be, because there's going to be a cost to it as well, to issuing those new
Sure.
items that are refinanced, yeah, of course.
Cool.
But it's certainly something we could look into.
Councilmember Sharma?
Thank you, Director Chambers. I have sort of a series of smaller questions, largely around the move of Public Works staff to the city annex.
Mhm.
So one, I was curious, is there, you know, I assume we can transfer some equipment. Is there costs associated with having those folks move over there? Like, do we need to install the things at the annex? Do we anticipate that increasing our facility fees at all year to year?
No, a lot of it, we don't know all the costs specifically. We have incurred some costs already just to increase the internet capacity at that building, having more people, more connections down there. But we did include some funds in the budget for this year for those costs. We anticipate some of the furniture we'll be able to reuse. Obviously, the workstations and stuff, we don't need to buy more. We can move what we have or replace them with something like a docking station if that works better than having a desktop and a laptop for individuals. So I don't think, other than what we've budgeted for in 2025, there's going to be significant costs. City Manager Pinkel, if you have anything to add to that, please do.
Yeah, I think what we budgeted for the current year is probably sufficient. And that's why we included it in the budget, because we are anticipating the move. So what's ongoing now is we had a bathroom leak, and so we're getting through those fixes, and along with those fixes, getting along with those fixes, we're able to use, because those are covered by insurance, and so we're taking advantage of that to make the the ADA adjustments and whatnot that we need to make to the bathrooms, and so going through those adjustments.
Thank you. And then I don't know if this is still the case. I know the Newcastle Historical Society did store things, I believe, at the annex for some period of time. Are they still doing that? And if so, hopefully not be displaced in any way.
So they do still have their stuff there. They have their own plans to get it out of there because they don't want to leave it there.
Oh.
And so we've worked with them previously before it was going to be a big annex move, just because technically their agreement was for a year, and it's been 10. And so that's an issue that we've been working on with them.
That's good to know. I did not know that. And then I was curious as well, if we're looking at more tenant space in City Hall, do we have like is it okay to ask for a ballpark of like what that we could maybe expect year to year? And also, do we think there would be immediate demand for spaces in this building?
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say in the model we do have, I think, an estimate of 50,000 that is probably on the conservative side, depending on the space that we'll have. And once we actually get everybody, we know who we're moving over, we know how things are going to shift around here, and we have a date, then we'll be sure to let High Point know so they can start looking for, tenants. If there's no open tenant space, they don't generally come to us and say, hey, we have somebody looking for something if we don't have anything available to offer. So I think once we do, then we'll be able to work with them. And then also find out what the current market rent is going for as far as square footage in the nearby area to know what that number could be.
Thank you. Yeah, really appreciate that.
Okay, quick question for me then. When the generators are completely done and installed, I assume that maintenance will be shared to all the tenants, correct? We're not just going to eat that, right? We're going to share the generator maintenance costs, like annual inspections, testing.
Right, that would go into CAM. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
How does electricity metered? It's a question I never asked, but do we have just one meter for this whole building and we kind of estimate who uses electricity, or has everybody got a meter? What's the answer?
I'm not sure. If I had to guess, I would say we probably just have a meter for the building and it gets split evenly.
Okay. I mean, that might be something to look into because you don't know I don't know who's up there, but don't we have a dentist is probably going to use a lot of
Yeah,
You know,
we'll look
electricity.
into that answer. I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, we can look into that.
Okay, might be a way to make it more equitable there. And then are we pretty confident that the tenants we have are gonna stick around? I mean, we're looking for new people, that's great, but are we pretty confident to keep who we have?
I think so. And that's part of the balancing act. When a contract comes up, we want to make sure that we are, and so we always have High Point do the research on, hey, what, for similar professional buildings in the area, what's the cost per square foot so that we can stay in the ballpark, but we also want to be reasonable and make sure we can keep our tenants. So the worst thing that we could have is empties, and so we want to avoid that.
Okay, thank you, let's continue, I guess.
All right, we'll move on to public safety. So this is going to be just kind of a quick, before we get into preliminary budget and further discussions, we just wanted to kind of take a look at public safety and how it compares to general government costs, as Scott mentioned, or City Manager Pingle mentioned. So the first, and I apologize, it's a little bit number heavy, so I'll kind of walk you through it a little bit. I didn't have enough time to think of a clever way to display it other than this, so bear with me. So the first slide is showing, I went back to 2016 just to show 10 years worth of data. The public safety total cost, so this includes our police contract, it includes our fire contract, it includes the prosecutor, the domestic violence attorney, jail costs, and animal control. We generally focus on police and fire because that's the big percentage of that total, but those other items are also included in there. So you can see, for the most part, it's increasing every year. We have had 1 year, that was 2021, where it actually reduced from the prior year. And so I looked into that detail. The major factor in that was our jail costs were significantly reduced, and that was because it was COVID and people weren't, were being arrested and released rather than being placed in jail cells. And so since we didn't have people going into the jail cells, we didn't have to pay for them to be housed. So that was the major factor with that cost being down in both 21 and 22. But then you look at the last couple years, we've had pretty significant, and then we'll see a bigger one this year, significant reconciliation credits because we have added officers and paid for them, but those positions have remained unfilled by KCSO. And so we've gotten those credits back. So you can see, but the one thing to highlight is the last couple years, we've had some bigger increases with Bellevue Fire has some capital allocations that they have added to our bill for our portion of that. And then KCSO has also seen some significant increases, specifically in insurance costs. And they have a $5 million that's actually been deferred that is still going to need to be paid sometime in the next few years. And they're working on when they're going to assess that to us. So the contract cities will have a small portion of that, and then we'll pay Newcastle's amount of that. And the next one, looking at general government versus public safety. So as Scott mentioned, general government includes things like the community development department, finance, IT, city clerk, city manager, legislative, engineering, those items. It does not include parks, maintenance, and of course public safety. And transfers from the general fund have also been eliminated because they don't really relate to this. So you can see in the general government side, just looking at the last 5 years, other than 2022, where we added a number of positions, which then we either were unfilled or have been removed or consolidated. We've been doing what we can to keep general fund costs down. So, just looking at 2020 to the 2025 budget, there's only a difference of just under $400,000, which is pretty significant considering the amount of costs that have increased over that time period. And then comparing it to the public safety costs, we see a lot more variance and a lot bigger increases. So then in this one, looking at the last 5 years, sometimes I think this can be an easier way to digest these big numbers is looking at it per capita. So looking at the population census per the census of Newcastle, and then taking those numbers from the previous slide and looking at the general government cost per capita and the public safety cost per capita, that breaks it down into a per person amount. So for each year, for instance, in 2025, the general government cost each individual, each resident in Newcastle, $284.90. The public safety cost is $513.78. So the general government cost is $228.87 lower. And you can see as time goes on in the forecast, what we're expecting is that with the fulfillment of the open officer positions, we're going to see that gap widen because that public safety cost is going to continue to grow. And like City Manager Pingle said, we have little to no control over what the cost of the officer salaries are, the officer overhead, the vehicles, things like that, equipment that KCSO is putting into place. Whereas with our general government costs, we've been working the last few years to reduce those items as much as we can with consolidating positions, only ordering the supplies and services that we truly need, and trying to do other things to just keep those costs down. So that being said, a couple considerations I think that we just wanted to highlight to wrap up all the numbers we threw at you, is that we know fire and police are increasing more significantly in recent years than they have in the past. We expect just with the current environment that that's going to continue, especially with the way KCSO has had difficulty in bringing in new officers and just keeping the ones that they have. And as I mentioned, they have still some insurance costs that they've deferred and have not assessed to the contract cities. So we'll have that coming. We don't have a dollar amount of what that's going to be. General government, on the other hand, has stayed more consistent, and staff has done everything we can in our control to keep that down. So we're looking at a gap that's widening between the general government side and the public safety side. So all that to say, for every reduction we're making in the general government cost, we're seeing an increase in cost on the public safety side that's sometimes equal to or more than what we're able to reduce on the general government side. So that's the difficulty that we're facing. And with that, I'll take any questions on what was presented, and then we'll lead into the sustainability model.
Okay, continue. Go ahead.
Okay. I'll just need a moment to get that queued up. The screen seems to be frozen. Oh, there we go. I just needed to talk about it, I guess. Let's see, I think I put it in the meeting. Did we not put it in the packet? I apologize. Can I take a minute? I'll run back to my desk and I'll load it into this folder.
Please do. Go
Okay,
ahead.
thank you. What? No, not for the meeting folder. I thought we had put it in the packet. I'll go move it over. Okay, thank you, City Clerk. Okay, so here's the model. We haven't done any major changes since the last time we looked at it. Again, with what we have in what we're expecting in the preliminary budget, this is matched up to that forecast. We did adjust it for the PERS cost savings that I mentioned before. That was a pretty significant dollar amount, so we did adjust it for that. But with that, I'll let the council take the floor, and if there's anything you want to look at change-wise to see what it would do with the dollar value, I'd be happy to work through that. Is that better?
Can I just ask either Director Chambers or City Manager Pingle to just give just for the public, a brief, just what are we looking at? There's a lot of numbers here. I mean, we've all seen it, but just be helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. So the forecast is, shows, it's meant to show the city's, this is the general fund and the city's status based on forecast assumptions, what the city's finances look like, and then so really where the rubber hits the road is there's revenue options and expenditure reduction options, and really what's there now is simply a result of previous discussions that the city council's had, and so a couple of things that we've added in the past is we didn't used to have we used to just show those first two graphs. And the city council wanted the third graph there at the bottom, the general fund and cumulative reserve balance. So we added that in the last year. And so it really just shows where we are. So the first line under the options, so where it says annual surplus deficit, that's the forecasted operating surplus or deficit in the general fund from year to year. Ending fund balance is ending fund balance. That's important to us because we have just to know where we're at the end of each year and what we have in our general fund. The next one is what we're required to have for our financial policies in the general fund as far as fund balance. And then
The fund balance surplus deficit would be taking into account that amount that we need to have per our financial policies and what the difference is.
Yeah. And then we added in the cumulative reserve balance that is not ARPA related, and then added that to then the general fund so that you get the combined balance. And so we want to pay attention to what's red in those numbers because that means we're either going negative on an operating balance or completely negative in a fund balance, and so we want to make sure we pay attention to those.
Yes, and I'll follow up that by just reminding council and the public that it is okay for the city to have a negative a deficit essentially for the year. That's allowed as long as you still have fund balance, but you cannot have your fund balance go negative at the end of the year.
Great questions for Director Chambers or City Manager. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Did we remove the golf course fee from here? Can see it.
Yes, so that's now included in the actual numbers for general fund that we know for sure.
And what was it last time? You mentioned it was a low amount, right?
So the first quarter was 44,000, I think approximately, and we have not received the second quarter yet. It's due by the end of the month.
And so technically, if I look at this, as per the fund balance, we are fine until 27, 28, right? 27?
Right, so looking at this middle chart, we would drop below, well, in 2030, technically, 2029, 2030, we would drop below the required minimum per the financial policies.
So we are good until 2028?
Yes, if there's no changes made.
So, can I just clarify what that exchange, what I heard? So you're looking at this middle graph
Yes.
with the red line. So we're fine until 28 or 20, sorry, what did you say?
So based on the graph, in 2029 is where we either get close to or below that required minimum.
Yeah.
If nothing
But that's assuming we would be using all those reserves
Yes.
and then we would be, so when we get to that, this is if we do nothing, this is what happens. And
Right,
so when we get to 29, we would have no more reserves, which means then we're in trouble.
We would still have reserves, but we would be out of compliance with our financial policies.
Well, yeah, because those reserves, for those listening in, were on a cash basis. So we have to have money in the bank at the beginning of the year, our fund balance, so that we can pay our bills before taxes come in later in the year. So that's why it's required to have that amount of money in our reserve, in our fund balance at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
Correct.
But when you're yes, and so when you're talking about use of fund balance, if we ended up going that route, the first chart would be the amount of that fund balance needed. So all those red numbers would be the amount that expenditures outpace the revenue expected for that year. So that would be made up by use of fund balance.
Right. And didn't we recently change our policies that doesn't allow us to use our fund balance?
We did, and I think I need to clarify one thing. So we cannot present a budget with expenditures exceeding revenues for that year. Council in budget discussions can make a decision to change the budget as presented in order to use the fund balance that's available, but staff cannot.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go back. Go.
So, okay, so we've established what we're looking at. Great, thank you. So if we do nothing, this is the graph, these are the graphs that we're seeing. It's represented in numbers. It's represented in multiple ways here. What's going to happen if we just go along with the level of services that we're providing right now and the amount of officers that we're budgeting for right now. Of course, these are projections, so I always say a budget, is a plan, not a promise. There's always potential for things to change, as we saw with COVID. So this stuff in the kind of beige color, these are, can you just explain all those different options? And again, I'm just trying to establish this for the public and newer council members so that we can understand how we can actually have a discussion about what do we want to do, if anything.
So the beige color are revenue, additional revenue options. So it's not revenue that we currently have, but as we've had these sustainability model discussions over the last couple of years, these are options that the city council has said, hey, change it to include these options. And so right now what we have in there is a utility tax option from 6% down to 1%. So you can turn those options. What the model allows us to do is turn options on or off to show what the effect of them would be. Then we have Transportation Benefit District. We have the flat fee on car tabs in there, along with as if we went the sales tax route. And then for the option of doing a public safety levy from 50 cents down to 10 cents. And so really what the council's done in the past and the options that the council's wanted to have is to have each of those individually. So initially when we had these discussions, we had public safety levy and it was the 50-cent option. When we had utility tax, I think we had the 6% and the 3% option. And as we went through those options, the council said, let's line item all of those options out so that we can play with it. The discussion that the council's had in the past has been, well, what if we do a little bit of public safety levy and a little bit of utility tax and a little bit of, and then looking at, if we're doing that, we could forego the annual 1% if we're going to add other options. And so it allows the council to play with options as far as turning options on or off, to come up with a mix of options that you all can agree or not on.
Okay, what I would suggest then for the council, right, because I think we're just presenting this to us tonight, is that at the future meetings where we discuss the budget, council members can come back with suggestions on what they think we should do with this model. We're not going to do that tonight, obviously. But now that it's there in front of everybody, or like as the deputy mayor or others have presented, like if you think of other things that can go on to this model, please suggest it to Director Chambers or city manager. And then, as we get going to the budget, we'll bring this up each time and kind of look at it. I do have one question to go back to your agenda, Bill, Director Chambers. Please explain to me, I'm sorry, I'm just a little tired, is why are we putting the $715,000 back into the general fund that's relating to the ARPA? Could you explain that to me?
Yes, so the $715,000 is what was left over to be obligated in 2026. So if you remember the last time we adopted the ARPA plan, the plan was to use it for public safety for the additional officers. And so that's the amount that's going to be available for 2026 after what we allocated for 2025.
But why wouldn't we just keep it and allocate it for public safety? Why do we have to move it into the general fund? It becomes available for anything, right?
In theory, yes, but we already transferred that money. So initially, when we got the ARPA money, we moved it to the cumulative reserve, and then we made a different transfer back to the general fund to consider it spent. But that was not considered spent in the eyes of both the state auditor's office and the treasury. So we had to move that money back out of the general fund into the cumulative reserve, and then we discussed and adopted a new ARPA plan to actually obligate those funds to actual expenses that were happening.
Okay, so is it essentially earmarked for public safety then?
Yes. Yes, and so both this year in 24, 25, and 26, we won't transfer that money out of cumulative reserve into general fund until the end of the year when we've completed payments for the police contract.
Okay, thank you.
And both fire payments.
Go right ahead.
So, just for fun, can we just turn on one of these just so that the public can see how it works? So, I don't know, the public safety levy at 30 cents.
So when we enter a 1 into here, these revenue amounts are, again, estimates based on what we think property tax valuation will be in future years, which, again, that could shift a lot from here, from now until then. But based on what we know at this time, that's what we're estimating. And so then it takes that revenue and includes it into the numbers down below. So you'll see that we have a lot less red and we have no red in our fund deficit. And then, when you're looking at the charts, we don't have a general fund deficit until 29 and 2030, and we remain well above the required minimum for fund balance.
So the public safety levy is paid by, it's a tax that's added to our property tax, correct?
Right, and so, yeah, it wouldn't be called a tax, but yes, it would be considered like a special levy.
Okay.
That would be assessed and collected by King County, and it would be based on your home valuation. So, commercial buildings and other things with much higher valuations would pay a larger portion of that than people with lower valued homes in the area.
Okay.
And then it would be remitted to us from King County the same way that the property taxes and the swim fees are.
Okay, so it would really, that type of a revenue would affect property owners.
Yes.
And so can you, I'm just curious, take off the 30 and drop it down to the 20 cents, and then if we, like, just an idea that we've talked about in the past is if we were to do some sort of a public safety levy, then there was an idea of, well, then maybe we would forego the 1% property tax, because then you're kind of evening it out a little. I'm just curious what happens if you leave on that 20 cent and you forego the
Turn on the
1%.
property tax.
Yeah. Okay, doesn't make a huge difference, but okay.
And one thing to note, in the past, the rhetoric has kind of been comparing the amount of property tax and the property tax growth to the public safety cost growth. And I think that can sometimes lead to some confusion because it makes it sound like property tax has to cover public safety, and it does not. We just use that as an example because it's our largest revenue source within the general fund. And so it can be kind of easy to see, but I don't want anybody to think that we have to collect property tax to meet the public safety demand. It's just one of the major revenue sources that we have. In the case of a public safety levy, those funds would specifically be earmarked for public safety use. They cannot be used to cover anything else.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see.
So
Yeah.
that revenue would be applied to public safety costs first, and then any additional amount needed for those contracts and jail costs, things like that, would be supplemented by the other general fund revenues.
I see. Thank you. That's important. Thank you for pointing that out. And just one other example I wanted to give. So if you turn off those two that you turned on, and we did turn on the 2% utility tax. I'm just curious what that does. So, and the utility tax is not through property tax. That's it's not collected through property taxes. Can you explain how that tax, who that affects?
Sure. So if that was adopted, it would go into our municipal code, I believe. And then any company that provides utility services within the city of Newcastle, so within our city limits, would then include that as an item on your bill. So anybody using those services within the city, whoever's paying for the utility services, would see that added to their bill. And it would just be a direct, as it says, 2% of your usage.
So even if you don't own property, you'd still be affected, but it would be evenly dispersed throughout everybody who's using utilities in the city.
Yes, potentially, yeah. Like if you live in an apartment and you have to pay your share of the utilities or something, that would be included.
Okay, and then I just want to say this just also for the record, as for council members, when you're playing around with this, something I always think about is the logistics of implementing a new revenue source. So is it realistic to start any of these in 2026? Some of them have to be on the ballot, some of them have to, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I'm just putting it out there that there's other logistics to this. So in reality, if we're talking about something like a public safety levy that needs to go on the ballot, we'd have to go through that whole process of putting it on the ballot first, and it'd have to get approved by the voters. So, and that being said, any of these could start later, potentially,
Yes.
right? And additionally, I'm just trying to point out all the different variables that we can play with. Additionally, with the utilities tax, I'm assuming this is 5% is 5% across the board, all 9 utilities. But you could do 2% on, I don't know, water, and 5% on some other
Yes.
utility.
Yeah, and we would include, once adopted, those would be included within our fee schedule as well, typically.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is the budget calendar, right? City manager or Director Chambers, who's going to take us on that?
I can.
I've talked enough.
So yeah, the budget calendar is in the packet, and we just, that's been sent out to the council before. And so we just put it in when we do this initial discussion, in case we need to tweak anything or move anything around. It looks very similar to last year's budget calendar, other than modifying some of the dates. Primarily, we'd be looking at doing kind of the next iteration of getting into a little more detail, our first meeting in September, before then getting preliminary budget posted before the end of September. And then our first budget study session would be October 7th. And then going with October 21st, and we would plan on being prepared to adopt a budget November 4th, or at least the schedule would allow the council to do that if we get that far. And then from there, from November 4th on, it's discussion and adjustments and whatever else is needed depending on council discussion. And so we put the schedule together so that the council would have the option of adopting a budget on November 4th. And then we'll take on whatever additional meetings we need to from there.
Okay. I think that wraps up this agenda item unless there's any final questions, which I don't see. Okay, so moving on. We now have additional public comment. I did see people signing up, so city attorney, please give us our election speech.
Thank you. So during election season, we like to remind everyone that Washington law, specifically RCW 4217A 555, prohibits public facilities from being used to support or oppose political candidates or pending ballot propositions. So as a result, we ask that no public comments are offered during the public comment period that either support or oppose candidates or support or oppose pending ballot propositions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the public comment, if when I call your name, please come to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes to discuss whatever topic you'd like. Please turn on the mic, and then a buzzer will sound at 3 minutes. We ask you to wrap it up. First up is Claudia Hershey. Come on up.
Good evening, council members. I'm Claudia Hershey from the Newport Woods neighborhood. I had some thoughts during the presentation of the construction of the sewer replacement. And that's actually something I'll just look into myself. As you know from me being up here numerous times, I'm a traffic engineer. I'm very curious about the speeds they'll establish during construction, both when construction isn't active and when the construction is active. And then second of all, there's an opportunity here, and I can look into this, but the city of Bellevue and their speed management plan adopted over a year ago had their first step be to drop neighborhood speed limits to 20 miles per hour, kind of trying the idea of retraining people culturally to drive slower. And their next highest priority is lowering the speed limit on Coal Creek Parkway to 35 miles per hour. So I'd like to see if there's a nice transition we could make post-construction and phasing into that project, or what their timing is, because it'd be nice if speeds are lowered during construction to just keep them lower for safety. I was surprised during the conversation that it was so lightly and sarcastically mentioned that why aren't we working 24/7 on this project? I've worked all my life on public works projects as well. And it would be costly is number one. Well, obviously King County said number one, it would be a safety problem. But I mean, if it increased by 10-20% on a project that costs in the hundreds of millions of dollars, that's no small consideration. I mean, we're worried about small costs throughout our city activities, and to even flippantly suggest, why don't you just increase costs by 10-20%? Aren't you guys thinking about this? Is, quite frankly, it's a little bit insulting. I think we should all be, and I think we did thank Cameron Gruhl for attending. He's the director of the wastewater treatment division for King County. That's huge. And the fact that he came here to our city council meeting, presented himself and his staff so professionally, took time out of his evening, I think he deserves, and his staff deserve, to be spoken to professionally. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Next up is Andy Jacobs.
Thank you, Council. Andy Jacobs. I live in the Olympus neighborhood in Newcastle. My question to the council, it sounds like since there's some marshmallow concern that are we going to build large structures in the city now that would potentially have the opportunity to have a white marshmallow looking band around it? Was that the intent of the discussion, number one? Number two, just reiterating what Claudia said, what about the people that live in the neighborhoods where the construction's going on if we do that overnight versus during the day when most people are at work or at school or whatever? Just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Next up, Carol Simpson.
Hey, good evening, Council. Carol Simpson. I live down at the Lakeview. Tonight, first, I'm going to be president of the Friends of Newcastle Library and let you know that we will also be at the art fair selling books. We sponsor activities at the library. There was no volunteer fair this year, and the city usually partners with the library in sponsoring a volunteer fair where all the volunteer groups come to the library, have desks, and tell the public that comes to visit what they can do as volunteers in our community. Hopefully that will happen soon because the library is now hiring a new adult and teen librarian. So I look forward to the volunteer fair. Continue to donate your books. We're short on books. The library has also sponsored a Government 101 course. It was a 4-week course a few years back, and I appreciated that and was very thankful that our department directors took their own personal time to come to the library and talk about what government does, and that was really, really helpful. We have our annual meeting coming up in September. We will elect new Friends of the Newcastle Library board members. We'll elect a new president, and I wanted to thank Councilmember Burford for her 3 terms on the Friends of the Newcastle Library. Our rules are she ages out. There's a term limit. Second, I also wanted to talk about traffic. When there's a slowdown and the freeways are closed, people go elsewhere. And let me tell you, coming from the north end, trying to come south on 405, last weekend when 405 was closed southbound, we were way over on the other side of Lake Sammamish trying to go south. It was just a nightmare. You'll constantly see people, especially in the evening, diverting from 405, getting off of Coal Creek Parkway, going up through 119th, through Lakeview, Lake Hills, jogging past Mustard Seed over to Lake Washington Boulevard, turning right on the Shell station, going down the hill where the construction's going on. There's already a sign there where I live that the 44th Street exit 7 will be closed this coming weekend. I don't know what that will be like. This will be interesting. But freeway construction goes all night long. It's summertime, folks. I have my windows open. So when those dirt trucks are going 24/7, they often have to back up. Beep, 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 beep. It's terrific. And they park right in front of our apartment building. They park in the McDonald's apartment. Today I was sitting outside at McDonald's having coffee with a friend, and the dirt trucks were going around and making the loop, going up May Creek Park Boulevard, going up Lakeview, Washington Boulevard. They're moving a lot of dirt right now. It's a big cut and fill job. So that's why we don't want 24/7. But sometimes we have to live it if we want to get 405 done. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, Carol. That concludes our public comment. City Clerk, nobody online? Nobody, okay. Next up is planning calendar, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So coming up on the 19th, I'm sure we'll fill it out a little more by that time. But a couple of things that got pushed back from this meeting, just with a couple, just waiting on information from contractors and Crosstown Trail, again, like we've talked about before, just waiting for the contractor to finish up their paperwork so we can close that out. Same with the bid award and design contract on Hazelwood Boardwalk. just working through that process. I do want to bring up two items for council's consideration. We generally cancel the first meeting in August for National Night Out. We have not done that yet. And so if the council wants to do that, we can. And then we are looking at another town hall meeting. Last year we did it in lieu of the second meeting in August. Not in August, in September. I just want to put that in front of the council as well, as far as whether we decide tonight or at a future meeting. When do we want to do the next town hall? Our 2 meetings in September would be September 2nd and September 16th. So we have kind of a long month after our second meeting. And so just looking for feedback on when we want to do the next town hall. We've talked about it being budget focused, but also want to make sure that that's still what the council wants and make sure that the staff is clear on what we're preparing for.
Okay, we'll start with, well, first of all, any questions? Okay, so anybody want to make a suggestion about the August 5th meeting? Councilor Sherlock?
I move that we canceled the August 5th city council meeting for National Night Out.
Okay, moved and seconded to cancel the August 5th meeting for National Nights Out. Okay, any discussion? No, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. August 5th meeting will be canceled in lieu of National Nights Out. So then the second thing on here would be any suggestions on the town hall? Anybody? Councilor Charbonneau, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I would be okay with having it in the back half of September again. I think I like the fact that we have the opportunity for folks to engage. I guess I would. Yeah, I just wanted to voice that. I mean, I think I'm open to what people's schedules look like in terms of if we want to do it on a Tuesday or if we want to do it on a different day of the week. And I think I guess I enjoyed the format before of allowing for more audience Q&A and engagement. I want to make sure we're just not presenting information that's like too. I think folks are capable of understanding information we put in front of them, but if we present a lot to them all at once, I think and they haven't been looking at it as much, and they might be coming just to get, a question answered about the road near their house. I think that can be off-putting, so I want to make sure it's not too much information all at once for folks, but maybe a snapshot, and then give them the tools to access it for themselves, and then focus on Q&A again would probably be my preference.
So just logistically looking at the calendar, we've got September 2nd and September 16th meetings, but the preliminary budget doesn't come out until the 26th of September. So I would suggest, as City Manager Pingle said, we have kind of an extra week in between, right? In between meetings? Yeah. So it'd be September 16th will be our council meeting, and then we don't have another one until October 7th. So maybe that week before the 7th, we just have a town hall during that week after the budget has been made public. So it'd be an extra meeting for us, but I'm perfectly willing to do that if everyone else is.
I agree.
Okay, what date do you suggest?
Well, as far as day of the week, have we had all of our town hall meetings on Tuesdays? No.
No, we have not. We've moved them around. They've been Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Doesn't matter to me.
You need to list in what's available.
Yeah, that's probably.
Yeah, we need to find out when it's available.
Why don't you do that and then come back with suggestions?
Sure. Or do we want to target that week? That last week of September?
Can we at least potentially just choose a day for now and then you ask them if they're available, the 30th, September 30th?
I mean, that's fine, either way.
Yeah.
Thanks.
What day of the week is that? Oh, okay. So any objection to September 30th? Okay, why don't you, city manager, let us know at our next gathering what that looks like, and we can make a final decision.
Yep, yeah, as much information as we get, I'll keep it coming in our Friday updates and whatnot.
Okay. Any other questions for the city manager or our planning calendar? Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.